Hello, my beautiful friends. Welcome back. So I don't know about you, but I personally really enjoy the outdoors. I love the mountains, the trees, the streams. Like that stuff is a meditation paradise. I really like being out there, walking through the woods, camping, and I'm sure a lot of you do too. So that's what this project today is going to be. It's going to be a terrain piece. It's going to be a river or a creek with some trees, rocks. It was really interesting and fun project. However, I did make a small mistake. I forgot how long deep pour resin takes to cure. So this video would have been out a few days ago, except unfortunately I forgot how long that takes to cure. So anyway, let's get into the video. I'll show you how I did it.
Okay, so we're going to start off with some XPS foam scraps that I had laying around. I have a bin full of these, so I decided I gotta start using these. So anyway, just going to start off with the cliff and put these pieces together. I glued a bunch of them together and then just started using my hot wire handheld tool to start molding the riverbed and also the side of the cliff. So this was pretty quick work. This is the first time, I think, I used this tool, and my goodness, was there ever a lot of smoke. So do make sure to use either a respirator or at least a N95 for this part, because it was very smoky. I had my windows open and everything. But anyway, it was a really good tool. It worked just great. It did exactly what it needed to do, so it was pretty good. So we started putting some glue down onto the riverbed and the cliff face, and this was so that I could pour a layer of sand to get some texture to start off with, the very base level of what I wanted. So I just sprinkled a whole bunch of sand on this glue, and pretty much that was it for the time being. I could let that dry, and it turned out pretty good. So now as that was drying, I embarked on a very interesting yet fun part of this project, and that was making about, well, I don't know, 300 or so stones of different sizes out of clay. This was just air dry clay. Rolled it between my fingers and then just slightly pressed them, just to give them kind of a rolled river stone look. So after I did all those stones, I painted up the riverbed, the sides, and the top of the cliff here, as you can see, just to give it a base color, break up the pattern underneath so it wasn't a solid color. And then I moved on to gluing the very top part of this structure, this base here. And that was so that I could use some moss that I got at the dollar store, put it in my coffee grinder and ground it up. So this is going to be now the forest floor, I guess you could say, the very first layer of many. So as you can see there, just put all that moss that I ground up, put it on top, and it started looking really good already. And to seal that, I used rubbing alcohol and some watered down PVA glue. So the next thing I did here was I started on basically the forest structure. So the trees, the bushes, the flowers, all these sorts of things. So this is starting off with, the first thing I wanted to have was a broken tree, one that fell over in the wind. And I loved it. I actually just took a stick, broke it, glued it like that. And that's exactly how I wanted it. So then just started putting a whole bunch of different plant type things in this project. Mosses, some flowers, there's some railroad trees that I had from a couple of years ago that I finally found something that I can use it with, because to me I don't find these too realistic, but in this case they kind of look more like a bush, and I could hide it behind some stuff. So I ended up using that. And now this here was just a plastic plant from the dollar store that I cut up. And as you can see there, I put some glue and then also some Woodland Scenics flowers, flock there. And just dip the petals, they weren't even petals, they were leaves I guess, but dip that into the flowers, red and yellow, and boom, there was some forest flowers ready to go. So that was actually a nice little surprise that I had some of these plastic plants left over, and I just decided to do this, and it turned out really well. So as you can see, there's also some other bare trees on there, some other bushes, and it worked out really well. Now here's something that I've never done before, and I think I'm going to do it more often. I think this might be my go-to for trees. I don't think that this was the best job that I did at this time, but it really gave me an idea on how I want to do my trees. So anyway, this was just moss from the dollar store that I cut a little bit of a section, kind of a rough round section, and a hole in the middle. And I hot glued layers of this moss onto the trees. It turned out actually really well. It looked like a really rough pine or spruce tree that's, you know, kind of dying but still remaining, hanging on to life. So if I work on this technique, I think this is going to be a really good way to do trees from now on. So I hope you like the way that looked, because I do personally. And then all I did was put some glue on there, drilled a hole into the base, and just glued that down. So I made a couple of those trees, and I put those into the base, and I was really happy with them. So moving on, a layer of glue on the riverbed there. So a little bit of pink. There was a couple of spots where my paint on the bottom wasn't quite dry yet, but that's okay. And then all these stones that I made. So I painted these gray, and then I put some washes on it to break up the color on it, and wow, did it ever look good. These stones took a long time, but if I have to do this again, that's the way I'm going to do it. So just continue with building these stones. I build this stone kind of outcropping with larger river stones, and glued them all down and made sure they were secure. So next comes the resin. So here I am just putting some hot glue on the side and some plexiglass to keep the resin in. So I did that on all three sides, made sure that was secure. I put hot glue on the corners to make sure that nothing would leak through. And then I moved on to mixing up the resin. Now this is deep pour resin. You can pour this fairly thick, and it does a really good job. It stays clear, it doesn't get too hot. However, as I said in the beginning there, I really wasn't thinking. I was just like, okay, gonna get this done, pour it, and, you know, get the video out. Totally forgot. This stuff takes days to cure. So I think in total, this took 4 days. So here I am just putting in some clay fish that I had made just to give this a little bit of an interesting look. And then went to pour the resin. And this is the money shot. I don't know why, but I absolutely love watching resin being poured into things. Let me know if you guys like that too, if I'm just the weird one. Okay, so after that wonderful pouring is done, I was able to take the sides off of the project so that I could work on the finishing aspects of it. So first I put some Mod Podge, some gloss Mod Podge on the river itself, on the resin, and then use my airbrush to kind of make it look like ripples in there. And then I moved on to black paint and Mod Podge and tissue paper to hide all the creases, all the spaces in between all those pieces of XPS foam that I put together. And then a layer of black paint, and the rest is history. Here you go, guys. I hope you enjoy the video. Thanks so much.